right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome, social friends, audience members, to this episode of Real Living in Chicagoland. Let me add my co-host into the studio here. Here we go, Rick.
Hey, Bill, how are you?
I'm good, and you?
I'm doing well, considering the state of the world.
Very true. A lot of things happening within the past week, right?
Yeah, I think more people need to buy real estate instead of starting wars. But what are you going to do? Or I guess that's their goal ultimately. Maybe.
That is the goal. That is always the goal. So why don't you lead us off with what is really happening in the world of real estate?
Well, across Chicagoland, still seeing activity. I mean, activity never goes away, even in the colder months. It's just the level of activity and interest. So we're on a winter and on the brink of the spring season. So more buyers getting out there without the inventory and stuff. But buyers who are out there are serious, and they're locked and loaded and ready to go. Unfortunately for buyers, unfortunately for sellers, be prepared to, as long as it's priced right, come in at full list price or even over asking. Appraisal gap addendums and all that fun stuff. Sometimes it might be quote unquote easier to go after properties that have been sitting on the market for a little while.
Okay.
That the sellers might be in a better state of mind to negotiate. Where a lot of the other buyers, this is such a psychological game when it comes to real estate, and an emotional game, and they go hand in hand. But when things are on the market for a while, a lot of buyers tend to stay away. They just figure something's wrong with the property. But
usually the reason behind that is, am I right? It's just priced wrong. That's why it's sitting on the market.
There's various reasons. I would say the number one reason is probably the price. A close second might be a seller with unrealistic expectations, where they are trying to leave room to negotiate, and therefore not pricing it right. And then buyers are much more knowledgeable and savvy these days, thanks to having access to MLS data through a lot of the real estate websites. And they'll just sit back and wait until the price goes down, and more days on market, and the more vulnerable property becomes. And, even if a seller were to wait months and months and months and months to finally get the price they want, they have to consider what's their overhead going to be in those months. How much are they paying in taxes and utilities, assessments in the cases of condominiums, So yeah. Are you actually making out, you got the price you wanted, congratulations, but are you actually making out the profit that you wanted?
Yeah, I get that. And so when I say it's priced wrong, I would say the flip side of the coin there is where a seller has, like you said, unrealistic expectations. Out of curiosity, what is a typical broker to do when sellers have unrealistic expectations? What do you do?
So I had to evolve my approach. When I started my own company back in 2016, and I was going on listing presentations, I was too honest, where I would, and I'm still honest, but I was too honest in the sense where I would tell a seller, hey, you know what, that the property is probably going to sell for this amount of money, and give them a range, a pretty tight range, maybe
Okay.
$5,000, $10,000, $20,000 depending on the situation and how many comps we had. And there are some sellers that they don't want to hear that. They wanted to hear a certain number.
Yep.
Along comes another agent and says, "Hey, great, yeah, we could probably get more." And they get the listing, and I would watch the property, and I'll tell you, all for one property, it ended up selling for the price point that I said it was going to sell for.
Wow.
So I have my pride, but I didn't get the commission. So it's navigating that conversation to where, hey, I'm going to have an honest conversation with you. This is what I believe based on the data, and any realtor that comes and sits at your kitchen table is going to tell you this. You're going to be looking at the same data, right? I mean, I tell you the same thing, but we're all looking at the same data. So, and now again, even sellers can look at the same data throughout real estate websites, Zillow and Redfin and all that stuff. So how you assess the data, that's where experience comes in. But I should say how well you assess the data. So now I have that honest conversation up front, and I tell them, we can put it at whatever price you want, but I don't want to make it seem like I'm lying to you to get the listing. So if we're not seeing the responses and the level of interest or any offers within the first couple of weeks, especially in this market within the first month, then we need to consider a price adjustment.
Yeah.
I don't want to shock you with that conversation later.
Got it. Okay.
I will say the one property that sold for the number that they wanted was an older couple who was in, I wouldn't say it was a very desirable part of the city, but decent as far as home prices and stuff. Very unique property with, I just was dying to market that property because it opened up to, when they opened the garage, it opened up to a park and then the river trails behind it.
Wow.
But it was located right next to an auto body shop.
Okay.
And just looked like a raised ranch, on a busy street in Chicago, but just a very unique property. And they ended up, they already had bought a property out of state because they wanted to be closer to their kids. And they said, I want this price. I want this price. I said, you're not going to see this price. It might be a few years.
Yeah.
And they kept it on the market for a few years. And then the pandemic came and they ended up getting the price they wanted. But again, in that time, they were paying a mortgage over there, mortgage over here, utilities, taxes, and all that stuff. So how much did they actually walk away with?
Sure. There's always that cost of waiting, right?
Yeah.
All right. What's another mistake sellers are making right now?
Some sellers are not, and this is from my experience working with buyers, because these are conversations that I have with my seller clients.
Okay.
Being accommodating with showings.
Yes.
Making it more difficult, whether they live in the property or they have a tenant that lives in the property.
Right.
If you do have a rental property, that's always a big discussion. Do you put it on the market now? Do you vacate the property and lose out on the rental income until the property sells? So I get it, even if it's a single family home or multi-unit, doesn't matter. But it's sometimes tenants are a big challenge. Sometimes sellers are just being, I can only show it here. I got cats, I got dogs, I got, and sometimes buyers just want to see a property right away. And I'm not saying you have to hey, we're outside, let me in, but there has to be some flexibility when it comes to showings. Tenants, of course, we have to give at least 48-hour notice, but
right.
But if it's owner occupied, then you should definitely expect to provide some flexibility when it comes to showings.
Yeah, especially if you are wanting to sell. I mean,
yeah.
Why stand in your own way of selling the property, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's shift to the buyer side. What are some mistakes that buyers are making?
I would say that some things that I've seen in the recent past, even though their realtor has told them and their lender has told them, hey, make sure you don't make any big purchases, don't open up any new credit cards or anything like that. I have had two situations recently within the last couple of years where like a small little department store credit card or like a small balance of $300 just throws a monkey wrench into the. I mean, it got resolved and they ended up buying the properties, but it creates a delay.
I know.
Yeah.
The old cliche is we tell them once, we tell them twice, we tell them 3 times. Follow the instructions.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What are a couple more?
I think a big one is buyers need to be a bit flexible with their showing or their touring availability.
Yeah.
There's a lot of buyers are out there on the weekends trying to get the open houses and stuff like that. But gosh, a lot of times properties are gone by then, and a lot of sellers, whether they're thinking of it on their own or the realtors are advising them, they want to wait until the weekend, have all the open houses, and then get the offers in and make a decision. But some sellers might be enticed enough or might consider accepting an offer before the open house. And I'm sure those realtors are happy canceling those open houses and freeing up their weekend.
Yeah.
But just if there's a property you really like and it's Monday, don't wait till Saturday to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. You cannot let time slow down your decision if you are serious.
Yeah. And as far as timing, don't contact a lender on Friday to get pre-approved to go see 20 houses on the weekend.
I got to tell you, we just love when people call us on a Friday evening saying, hey, I need to get an approval.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And for weeks, we're probably thinking like, well, couldn't you have started this earlier? But people are people.
They are, and I mean, again, it's an emotional process. So they see pictures of a property that just hit the market. I love it. I want it. I got to go buy it.
Right.
But I don't have my pre-approval letter. I'm thinking about talking to the lender. I've been trying to get things updated. I should have sent my pay stubs in 2 weeks ago. But you got to be ready to go, because this is a market that even though things are sitting in the market for longer and we're not seeing the craze that we were during the pandemic, that level of insanity, I should say, the property is worth buying or selling quickly. So you have to be ready to go. Very
true. Very true. Very true. What else do you think between the two parties? What do you think real estate brokers are making some mistakes on? I'm curious to kind of get in your world, get in your head about this.
I think that the biggest change to the industry in was it August 17th, 2024, a day that will live in infamy, is the changes with how
compensation
commissions are paid out. Well, I would say it's just a shell game, because when they say, oh, buyers have to pay their broker's commission now, well, guess what? Buyers always have to pay the broker's commission. It just came off the seller's side of the ledger. Because where did the money come from? Whether it's the cash from the buyer or the mortgage, the bank that they're taking the mortgage out of, it's coming from the buyer side. So it's the same thing with a rental, situation. The landlord's sharing part of the first month's rent. Well, where's that money coming from? It's coming from the renter. Yeah. So now I do appreciate that there's more transparency. I believe that, number one, I feel that things like highest and best, those type of scenarios have made our knives a little bit more dull when it comes to negotiation skills.
Really? Okay.
I think it's more engaging to negotiate an offer rather than just say, hey, give it your best shot and we'll just have to pick. Where are you negotiating there? Right. You are increasing your skills, enhancing your skills, I should say, when it comes to marketing the property, to try and find that leverage that you need to get enough offers and possibly get offers over asking price.
I think
that's, that's enhancing marketing skills. It's not necessarily enhancing negotiation skills.
Okay.
So now we have to potentially negotiate with our buyers and say, hey, you know what? This seller doesn't want to pay a commission, or you know what? We signed an agreement that you're going to pay me 2.5% or 3%, and the seller's only going to pay 1.5% or 1% or 2%. So now we're put in a position where we are potentially damaging our relationship with the buyer. Puts us in a tough situation. Are you going to go after them for, I can understand, hey, we have a 2.5% agreement. The seller's going to pay 1. I think I'm worth the other 1.5%. I'm worth 10%, but I'm only asking for 2.5, right? So if the seller says, hey, you know what, I'm only going to pay 2.25, do you say, hey, buyer, we have an agreement for 2.5? You got to pay me that quarter? Or are you going to say, I really want you to have that property. I'll take a haircut so you can get the property. So
True.
It adds and everybody's going to say, I'm going to fight for what I'm worth and all that stuff. But also, I have a post coming out soon about how a $450 rental commission led to 31 rental transactions and over $2 million in sale.
Yeah.
So you can fight for every penny that you're worth, but I think when you're in this business long enough and you start connecting the dots, if you take a haircut now, what you do build is a reputation, not necessarily being a cheap realtor, but of being somebody who's loyal to their client. And that means a lot when it comes to building those long-term relationships with clients. And then from there, it just branches out to, now you're working with family, you're working with friends, and I'm not going to take this because I'm worth more.
Right.
You can miss out on a lot of opportunities.
That's true. Sometimes in any business, you have to give a little to do some pro bono work.
Yeah.
So that you can make up for it down the road in the long term.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with you. I think where, to this topic, I think where some brokers really kind of miss the point though is, and on occasion I hear this, and it just makes me like, tell me you didn't say that, which is when a broker says something like, you don't have to pay me.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, whoa, time out.
Yeah.
You're kind of implying that your services are free.
Yeah.
And let's be real, they're not.
Yeah.
And I think it's an easy way out of explaining the agency and compensation agreement, and also really defending the services that you offer and that they're worth something.
Yes.
Right.
I absolutely agree with that. And I that has been a pet peeve of mine for years before 2024, when people would say, oh, my services are free to you, et cetera, et cetera. Essentially, they're not.
Yeah.
They're not at all, and thanks to all those, pardon my French, all the assholes selling luxury real estate, or the idea of luxury real estate and adjusting their cufflinks and standing in front of a Maserati.
Right.
A lot of people out there, a lot of consumers out there, buyers and sellers, figured that we were doing very little to make a lot.
Yeah.
And the real realtors out there, you look at those videos, and those people are probably renting that car. They just found it on the street and, put a filter on it and have a decent suit on, and everything looks luxurious, But most realtors out there are just going through the grind every single day, and earning every single penny that they're making, And we work for free until we don't, because anything can happen, and next thing you know, that doesn't close, and what do? You spend a lot of time and a lot of effort, and that's the risk of doing this,
Yeah, you spend a lot of time, a lot of effort. You spend a lot of money, with photos, marketing dollars, especially if you're committing to a seller that all of a sudden one day changes their mind and says, I've changed my mind, I don't want to sell anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Good luck. Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. So, audience members, this morning's live stream, we've shared some real content with you, real life banter about, hey, sellers, buyers, here's really what's going on. So thank you for joining Rick and myself in today's live stream episode of Real Living in Chicagoland. And as I've always said, and as we wrap up the live stream, if you are about to start your journey selling or buying real estate in the greater Chicagoland area, you have not engaged and built your dream team, certainly consider Rick and myself to help you along the way so that you get to the outcome that you want in the most efficient process and timeliness possible. So Music Posse, let's play us out. Rick, I will see you in the next episode. Here we go.